I was just going to say, Steve, your 25 million excess limits aged you because that was a while ago.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Stephen Torreblanca, product manager. I'm joined today by Bridget Douglas, senior underwriter out of New England, Sam Feuerstein, underwriting specialist out of the Midwest region, and Scott Mertzlufft, at AVP, team leader out of the Southeast region. Our conversation today is going to be on the combined form, the general liability and site pollution. That's GSP by acronym. And we're going to sort of delve into how Berkeley Environmental meets the needs of our clients across a diverse range of product classes, where we've seen some hiccups, what we've done to be creative and intuitive within the same space. So as we go through and think about it, there's certainly many threads to be pulled. And Scott, and sort of where do you see the GSP fitting in within a product suite?
I love this product because it utilizes different parts of my brain than some of our other products where I'm just looking at a contractor. I mean, I'll be, can look at both, products pollution comes into play on GSP all the time, and I find that fascinating. It's an interesting, it challenges my brain and makes me learn new stuff. I've learned more about chemistry working in this product over the last 10 years than I have since I was in high school chemistry class. And I find that really fun because you can get, as an underwriter, you can get in the doldrums of looking at a same type of environmental contractor and over again. And so it's nice to spice things up and have something a little bit different to focus your attention on.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? It's, people usually think of a Berkeley Environmental and they think the contractor exposure, but we have a whole nother suite of products to offer for an entirely different appetite class where the GSP is meant for those manufacturers, wholesalers, distribution, all of which present their own environmental or pollution exposures, right, through their products, their operations at their facilities. And I think a differentiator is how we approach that, right? To your point, like we're always willing to learn, and the amount of engagement we take, it's not just looking at the account moving forward, but understanding the risk and then underwriting to that same exposure, and it builds out a tailored solution. It's really the bench strength, I think, that adds to our values.
I specifically like manufacturers for that reason. I feel like manufacturers, yes, like they're all categorized as manufacturers, but the way that they're manufacturing it, like what they're manufacturing, they're also different. I like the variability in sort of what you're able to look at, because I do find environmental contractors, a lot of them have like the same general practices that they're doing. I've found that like manufacturers specifically, I think they all do it very differently, which makes it fun to kind of get to be nosy and just see how their process works and stuff like that.
And I think when you see that, right, like I mentioned, we were talking about multiple carriers within the same space, it becomes almost difficult to decide which carrier to choose. And we try to alleviate some of that stress by offering multiple products, right? Sam, we work together historically. Like, what's a key differentiator you see that we have compared to some of our potential competitors that are out there?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. We do have a history together. I've been in the environmental insurance world for about 12 or 13 years now. And some of the differentiators I see here is exactly what you're saying, Steve. We can write workers' comp. I will be your one-stop shop. I can do auto, and we can do excess up to 15 million. And with the auto, which is a nice change for me, there is no restrictions on like the auto fleet. You don't have to have, a range of a certain auto fleet, or it's too many for us to consider, or the percentage of revenues over the total lines of business. So it's nice that I can look at a little bit of everything and anything on it. There aren't too many submissions or things like that where we're not able to look at it. I like to engage all the experts that we have on this team, which is a lot. Everybody comes from different backgrounds with different information. So it's nice that I'm able to talk to Steve as a product line manager who's always available for me. And instead of shooting something down and saying no, it's more of let's talk about this. Let's, get some additional information. Let's have some conversations and get comfortable with the actual exposure is and see if there's a solution that would work for all parties that are involved. So that's nice that we have a nice approach to brainstorming with each other and trying to find out answers instead of no's.
I think one of the mainstays here at Berkeley is sort of that creative process and thinking outside the box, solution-oriented, creative solutions to that same risk. I mean, I think it's all easy, and we could all agree, like hitting no, it's the reverse of the Staples button. That was easy. It's like no declined. I think we can all tap that pretty easily without much of a second thought, but we try not to do that here. We go through and, having those shower thoughts. We were talking about this podcast. We're going through and we're trying to have an active dialogue to go through it. And what differentiates us, it's not just the people, because we've obviously all come from different backgrounds. It truly is the culture here. And it goes back to even to our mission statement, right? Like, what is now, what is new, and what could be? Like, that embraces picking up what we see as a risk, evaluating it, underwriting it, and providing what we see as a compatible offering for our clients.
I think the fact that GSP fits in within a broader focus on contractors at Berkeley Environmental, and it makes us better at addressing some of the areas of manufacturing risks or some of the quirks of an individual risk that other carriers might turn aside, because they don't have a comfort level with contracting or people sending out folks onto a third-party site to do installation or service work or something like that. And I feel like we have really great tools to underwrite auto at Berkeley Environmental because of the type of operations we see on other products. And it allows us to have a broader and more thoughtful approach to more varied types of fleets that we sometimes see that other carriers might say, absolutely not. I don't want to look at that because there's too many of this type of vehicle. They're doing this type of stuff.
I appreciate the fact at Berkeley specifically that I have such easy accessibility to product line people. So being able to reach out to someone who has a lot of knowledge on specifically GSP is, I think, like one of my favorite parts of Berkeley, because I learn so much faster by just having that direct access.
Recyclers, it's become for us, and I think what we've observed throughout the industry, it's a little more difficult to place those risks, right? It's becoming more contracted, and you might have a new entrant come in and take it or look at it and offer a more appealing package. But I think with the experience that we have and what we've seen and gone through within the industry, we're able to offer those terms that we believe meet everyone's needs, right? And structuring those risks. Because recyclers is a broad class. It's not just specifically your scrap metal hauler. It could be paper, it could be oil, it could be plastics, innumerable ways of materials that can be recycled, especially as we look towards in our climate globally. How are we protecting that for the future? It's nice to see that we're playing a role in that, and we're giving our clients the assurance that if they do have an event, we're there to help them through that process, to remediate it, to bring it back to where it should have been, and cleaning up those facilities. So there is proper coverage in place for potentially a scenario that could lead to environmental contamination.
And just to build on what Steve and Bridget were saying, I think even since I've been here, which again is about a year and a half, I think that we have broadened our appetite so much in the GSP world. And again, that's just because of all the different talent that's come in that has all these different experiences and have know-how with different operations, different manufacturing. So it's nice that we can take a look at everything. I think from where we were a couple of years ago versus where we're at now, what types of risks that we look at is, much broader.
Talking about the experience you mentioned within our corporation here allows us to make those decisions more quickly, more effectively, with a better intuition to the actual risk based on those experiences.
I mean, the lack of hoops that we have to jump through to get a quote out the door at Berkeley Environmental is a breath of fresh air for me from my past life at other carriers, because it is just, we're always, just fundamentally as an organization, I feel like we're always trying to come at a risk from a place of, how do we make this work? And everybody makes themselves available to make that happen instead of having 17 meetings to talk a risk to death, we all come with a shared goal of getting a quote out the door and providing a program that's going to be the best for both us and for the insured.
How many people have heard analysis by paralysis?
Too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like one of those. Even with referrals, we do have a large amount of experience here, and I try to stay within the chain, right? Like, have the referral go through. We do have to refer things, right? It's the nature of the business we're in, and making sure that we stay within that chain and it's referred for the right reasons. We talk about the risk for the right reasons, but it's not done to a stall. It hasn't sort of died on the vine. It's been able to be moved through, and I think it's nice to have the lead times. It's the cushion we have, right? That's the courtesy we get, but the nature of it and the reality of it is you got to play the hand you're dealt, right? It's in a game of cards. You can choose to play or you can choose to fold. We typically choose to play, and we try to provide something that meets everyone's needs. We talk about our ability to develop coverages tailored to the needs of our clients, but I think it goes beyond that. I mean, we look at our wholesalers who aggregate some probably the more harder to place business. We see is, I think, was the most highly attended this year of 2025 as in prior years. I think it was some odd 9,000 people show up. That's the ENS marketplace at its finest. That's where we are thriving. So I think our ability to take in some of that feedback from the brokerage community and hear about these risks, because technology is changing. We see AI developments. We see alternative energy thriving and blossoming, and alternative methods to produce products, right? The manufacturing methods are changing along with it. So we have to be able to understand that. So our creativeness towards our risk appetite even has to change. The more interesting, right? We all hear from our broker partners, the market, the state of market, what's happening. I heard this program's closing. This is happening over at this carrier. And we always hear, and we can't really see the ripples of the effect until it starts to come in through our inbox. And one of the interesting effects was the welding supply companies, right? And this is something that's been different to me personally. I've had a history of reviewing these and sort of taking a step back. It's just an exposure that I haven't been willing to take. But we looked at it. We evaluated the prior coverage. We looked at what the policy was affording. And ultimately, we were able to build a specific endorsement tailored to that specific industry class to fill a need that our brokerage and now clients have. So we're developing creative ideas in the moment. It's not an annual, year-long, multi-year process to revamp. Going back to the shortened, hoops to jump through. We're not the Ringling Brothers. We're not certainly going through doing backflips and pirouettes and everything else. We can have the phone call within a day and straighten it out, compile a business case, and we can move forward. That flexibility allows us to be present and to be the solution that a lot of people need.
I think that too, it's like maybe not any oddball accounts that I have, but I see a lot of stuff that's coming from geo-only market, and they're looking to add value. And a lot of times, it's a discussion with the broker about these are the type exposures that they have. But I've been able to be competitive in pricing with adding, drilling down our pollution, tailoring it to what's needed, and getting the premium to where it needs to be, which is comparable to GL-only market. But then now they've got a lot of additional coverage on there. And that's kind of the nice thing or the fun thing about GSP is it's surplus lines. So you can tailor it any way that you need. The more conversations you have, the better. Like, what are their pollution needs? Do they have specific contract requirements that they need fulfilled? Which is a lot of times where you see pollution come in from is contract requirements of having some sort of pollution element. But let's, talk about it and see exactly what would be beneficial to them. If it's non-owned locations, if it's, transportation, things along those lines. So I don't think it's anything, I've had anything odd, only because I've done this for a long time, and I guess everything's kind of odd and new, but it's good to be able to tailor that to what the client, any insured needs for things.
Yeah. One key word stuck out in my mind in that, and probably wasn't pollution related, but the transportation, right? And seeing the auto market and how that ties in.
Mm-hmm.
It's so changing, and I'm not going to begin to open the can, but I will say we look at the risks. We have large fleets, we have small fleets, we've seen it all. But it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be writing them all. There's certain classes I could say, for at least for the GSP, if it's a ready mix or concrete, I've not looking to write the auto on those accounts. So there's certain risk classes just based on the exposures that are almost going to make me say, like, I've looked at it, I've seen it, I've dealt with the experience, or maybe it's a specific niche within that. Maybe it's not the auto line. Maybe it's an exposure to a specific constituent or how that end product is used. GSP being so broad, we're not just evaluating the site for slip, trip, falls, and general exposures. We're not just evaluating the pollution exposures. We're looking at the products. We're looking at their operations. We're looking at how they're hauled. The entire risk is being reviewed for all of its exposures and how it's tied in and built in, and how it exposes the client itself, or how the risk is presented to the public. Is it a consumer direct or is it an intermediary? If it's consumer direct, we're probably going to be taking a step back. But if it's an intermediary within a larger mix of product or final product, we're a portion of that or a piece of it, we're more likely to write it. So we're looking for more of an intermediate as opposed to the exact end product where you can go into a big box store and pick it up off the shelf. Mm-hmm. So there's certainly different levels of exposures, and I don't want to paint our product suite with a broad brush because we've all advertised it. We underwrite each individual account on its own merits. So as much as there is a set list of appetite and what we look at, and we're looking at anaerobic digesters or alternative fueling stations or cloth and fabric production, it's going to be the individual account that we're looking at, not just a box, check, declined, accepted, right? We have to go through and we're going to review it. So I think, again, our approach, what we see, how we're viewing those risks, it all builds into what we are, right? That's going back to our culture. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Bridget. I appreciate all of you taking your time today to go through this and share some of your experiences, thoughts. It's very welcomed, appreciated, and acknowledged. For the listeners out there, please like, subscribe, follow. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.